Hello, welcome. I'm John Laspina, your carnivore teacher, and today we've got a real powerhouse in the carnivore world joining us. Duncan Smart is an international endurance athlete, a recently retired mathematics teacher, and the author of Carnivore, the Manual, a true field guide for anyone who wants to live a meat-based life with clarity and confidence. What makes Duncan's story so compelling is where he started. He spent years as a vegetarian, then moved into keto, and eventually committed to a strict carnivore lifestyle 7 years ago. And what began as an experiment to boost his triathlon performance, speed up recovery, and sharpen his mental focus ended up challenging everything he thought he knew about food and cholesterol and chronic disease. Many people know him as the carnivore coach, and for good reason. He brings decades of classroom experience. He has a BA, an honors BA, and a PGCE in mathematics to the table, which means he explains metabolism and nutrition with precision, simplicity, and zero nonsense. Duncan's mission is to help people strip nutrition back to first principles and reclaim the strength, clarity, and vitality we were all born to have. From his home on the wild moors of North Yorkshire, I don't know if I'm saying that right, he trains, writes, and guides people toward rewiring both the body and the spirit. So, Duncan, it is an honor to have you. We had you on Carnivore Sunday School last week or the week before. Welcome to the interview here. I hope people get a lot out of this.
Well, thank you very much, John. And that was a beautiful introduction. I couldn't have written it better myself. It just sounded beautiful. And it's interesting listening back to it, isn't it, about ourselves. And I think we're not used to, I don't know what's it, selling yourself, but actually we are what we are.
We are.
I think when we get to our age as well, and we're just so used to saying it as it is. So that was beautiful. Thank you very much for that. So I live in Yorkshire. So we say Yorkshire. Yorkshire up here, and then
I knew Yorkshire. I said it wrong.
It's okay. That does not. I mean, even in the UK, the Southerners will say it incorrectly. So it does not matter. It doesn't. Okay. I'm not one of those that worries anything about that at all. So thank you very much for that introduction. Really appreciate it. So.
Absolutely. You were interviewed by Casey Ruff. Am I correct?
Yes.
I want to give him a big shout out. He kind of taught me how to do some of these interviews because he gives these amazing introductions. And after he does the opening, the people are like, wow, is that me? And he introduced me a few times, and it just felt so cool to hear that. So I'm like, I'm going to do that too when I interview people. So that's why and it's your information. I just, I explain it in a really cool way.
My very first podcast I was invited onto was a South African podcast to talk about their ancestral eating. And I thought, well, all the way from here, from North Yorkshire in England, to talk to the South Africans about their ancestral eating. But the gentleman, he really struggled with my name, so he was referring to me as Mr. Duncan. Duncan. So, Duncan, exactly. But it was beautiful, and he had a beautiful smile, a beautiful young, very intelligent.
And what a great last name you have! I mean, for making videos and capturing people's attention, because he's smart.
The incredible thing there is, John, all the years I've been teaching, when I say all the years, it's only 15 years compared to the length of time of you. However, every new class I would get would say, oh, Mr. Smart, did you change your name to Smart when you became a teacher? I say, no, my father's called Mr. Smart and my grandfather was called Mr. Smart before them. They say, well, was he a teacher? I said, no, my father worked in a brewery and my grandfather a farmer. Guess what my daughter's called? Is she Mr. Smart? No, she's Miss Smart. But there you go.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool name. Okay, let's jump right in. I'm going to take that first question. You went from long-term vegetarian, if I have that right, to keto, and then finally full carnivore. So what was the exact moment or the exact result that told you, I can't go back?
Wow, I like that. And it is, anybody eating this way long-term, they do say the same thing. They can't go back. And there was a turning point. I'll just back up a little bit and give you the introduction to my carnivore lifestyle. My vegetarian lifestyle. It was about 4 years, maybe touching 5. And I think it was when I retrained to be a maths teacher. I came from engineering, became a single parent, 3 young children. I always wanted to teach mathematics. And I don't know if it's a stereotypical idea as a student, again, especially a middle-aged student, mature student, is to go down that vegetarian route. And I genuinely felt healthier. But perhaps it was because I was focusing more on natural foods. And often people with a vegan or the vegetarian do initially feel better for 3 or 4 years. But I realized something was missing. I met this woman who we went out for a date, and she says, "Oh, do you want to share the meat platter with me?" So that was my turning point. And once I had that meat, I suddenly went back to energy and starting to feel a little bit better. But I was still not too sure what direction I was taking. I started to run a little bit. For whatever reason, it was more mental health issues. I started to find the running world, but just couldn't understand that I did not have the energy. I would come home from a long day in school, feed my children. Would I eat then before I went out, or what would I do? Because I couldn't run on a full stomach. I was quite a heavy guy as well. I've sent you some pictures of before and after, and quite a weighty guy. So it was a big effort. When I then set off on this research quest to try to find out how our ancestors fueled, and I think it's because the type of people you and I are, we love to research, we love to read and find out the information ourselves from source rather than listen to other people. So, I mean, I'll get into this during the conversation now, but to answer your question about then, after it's 8 years now, John, I mean, I've been telling everybody this story for the last 7 years, but it's now gone on to 8 years being a carnivore. And some people have said, will you go back? Well, and I will mention this, it was an experiment in this when I started, until it opened up this whole world, this beautiful world of health and clarity and energy and freedom. I mean, freedom's one of the biggest ones. So when did I realize that I won't go back? It may have been as long as a couple of years in, but perhaps I didn't actually focus on that until later on and thought, this is now my way of life. There's no going back to the way I was, because why would I give up this beautiful lifestyle and feeling so good and getting out of bed in the morning and bouncing with energy rather than having, I saw your beautiful reel about coffee, but rather than just having to knock back those coffees just to get myself up. Whereas now I'm looking forward to the day. So.
Yeah, that excellent answer. And I say the same thing when people ask me, why would I want to go back to lower back pain? Why would I want to go back to obesity? Why would I want to, and I, fill in the blank, all the there must be 30 or 40 improvements that happened to my life when I checked them off.
Now, I'm probably a little bit unusual on this, and I've been down to a lovely meetup this weekend just gone by.
I saw that.
And I'm very fortunate to meet some very, very big names in the carnivore world. And even the BBC were there, which was maybe more information about that later. So that was very interesting. What I realized was I came into this way of lifestyle as a self-experiment to enhance my athletic performance without any illness, without any recovery or what I wasn't aware of at the time. However, the side effects, and I'm going to use the word a side effect, was massively healthy. So I realized that my hair went darker. My teeth got better. My skin was beautiful. I could compete. I could go out all day without any sun creams and all these other things associated with it. And as I mentioned before, was a clarity of thought. That was something I didn't ever think would come along. That cloud that was lifted. It was like a veil was lifted. I could actually see really clearly and think clearly. And that actually also enhanced my athletic performance. Because if I'm competing against people and I have to think about a racing line, well, to have a fast, quick thought process as well really helps us too.
It does. The synapse, I think, are just faster. You have more mitochondria everywhere in your body, which is giving you ease and speeding things up. And you're preaching to the choir here, because I'm as excited as you are. When I talk about it, my eyes light up. I can't stop smiling, because I too have had all those side effects, the wonderful side effects of basically what we're supposed to have. I mean, we're supposed to feel this way. This is human life, and we've been, our liver, our kidneys, all of our organs are fighting with all the plant toxins and the chemicals and the ultra processed food. We're fighting, and we can do it for a while, a lot of us, when we're younger, but then it catches up with you. The bandwidth shrinks as you get older, right? And you discovered this as a runner. Just boom, it's like you're 19 again, right?
Absolutely. And it took me perhaps a couple of years, and I know, I don't want to put anybody off that it sounds like a couple of years. No, the actual feel good was within a few weeks.
Right.
But for my speed to come back in the athletic world. So what I'm saying there is the endurance, massively so. Within a very short period of time, I found I had this almost felt like unlimited amount of energy. I didn't have the same energy system anymore. It was boundless energy. It was an incredible amount of energy. What I lost a little bit initially was speed. So when I say that, I mean, it was an out and out power speed, I think. Mm-hmm. Now, I've tried to use an analogy before when we talk about high performance engines and maybe a petrol engine and with high performance fuel, but it will burn through that fuel very quickly. And I believe carbohydrates were probably the rocket fuel that was giving me that speed initially, but it's only short-lived, maybe 20 minutes tops before they're taking energy gels again. And then all those intestinal issues that are associated with that. Whereas once I started to eat this way, I did not have that issue. My times in endurance events actually increased because I didn't need to stop to fuel. I didn't need to even stop to take drinks. So I was gaining time there. So that started to help. But slowly, the speed came back, and the speed came back, and the power came back. And what a beautiful feeling. Now, perhaps to any athletes out there listening, they'll say, well, maybe it wasn't this way of eating. Maybe it was training more. Maybe you did, but it could go down to the gym. And they are right. They are absolutely right with that, because this way of living, the carnivore way, I can recover so much quicker. So say, let's take running a marathon, 26.2 miles. Normally after a marathon, people are walking down the stairs backwards. The hamstrings are hurting, the calves. And you feel it takes a few days to recover. It can make it a week or two. This way of living, I feel like training again the next day. So perhaps this way of living meant that I could train more. So then the speeds came back. But it doesn't really matter, really, which of this. It's probably all of them. It's probably all of the above. And it might even be a placebo effect. But we know long enough that the placebo effect actually becomes a reality. Mm-hmm. So
as your mind goes, often the body goes.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Feeling great. I mean, I've heard that story from so many athletes. Same thing. It's amazing. And we often don't realize when we're going through it, that it's happening to us. I mean, maybe we do a little bit, but until you reflect back on it and you think about how your life was before, the contrast is stark. It really is.
I regret not taking a journal or keeping a journal 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. But what I was touching on before, it was an experiment for me. And out here on the north of England, I didn't know any other carnivores. And my whole world was school or the athletic world. Well, all the athletes around me would be taking the gels, rushing to the toilet, doing all the what's perceived as the traditional things for their energy fuel systems. And so I should have really looked at social media and maybe reached out that way. But all I was doing was going on what I had researched and read myself. And I'd read about Wilhelm Stephenson and been with the Inuits for a year and then put himself into an experiment sitting in a hospital and being observed for a year of meat and fat only. And he didn't suffer from scurvy. And he actually came out of containment a year later, even healthier than he went in. So my analytical brain, my mathematical brain saying, well, how come that works for him? And then that's what set me off in this experiment. So whether I knew if it was going to work or not, or how long it was going to last, I had no concept. So I should have kept a journal. And or even documented that on social media, the journey would have been interesting.
It would,
But
in
but
hindsight, oh boy, if we
but
could go back and and do it
but
differently.
then I could race so many times. So sometimes I was
Right,
racing 3 or 4 times a week. Well, normally athletes
wow,
race once. Because I'm pushing myself to the race
right,
level, I am actually getting faster. And next thing I'm getting a message from the Great Britain team saying I've qualified for the World Championships. I'm saying, oh,
wow,
yes. But it means going down to the south of France and training with the Great Britain team. Okay. It means carbohydrate loading before the long endurance rides, which I had to lie about. I couldn't tell the coaches that I said, oh, I ate before you guys got up this morning.
yeah.
I've got some carbohydrate drink on my bike. I didn't. I just had salt water.
Right, right.
But
Otherwise, you'll go down that whole path. You're going to argue and try to explain and everything. Yeah.
it wasn't worth it, honestly.
Mhm.
And I found this in the educational system. I found it wherever I've gone to race. I found it easier to actually lie about my way of eating, because people started to look at me as I was some sort of strange mythical creature myself. That why was I performing so well? And I perhaps hadn't even eaten since the previous day. And they were noticing that I wasn't even taking a water with me on a 2-hour race, because anything under 2 hours, I don't need water.
Yeah.
My muscles don't need the water for the carbohydrates, because I am
Right.
on zero carbohydrates. So they started to question, and there's a big scene in the athletic world about performance enhancing drugs. So you could imagine a few of them started to look and say, well, why has he come from a mediocre athlete to now a really good athlete? Where's that come from? And you and I both know where it's come from. It's come from
Right.
the fuel source. It's come from the fat. It's come from allowing my body to recover over those initial 2 years
Mhm.
and heal. And then my intestine recovering from all the abuse I've given it over those 50 years, and actually allowing it to absorb those beneficial nutrients. And those nutrients are the ones that started to bring me alive again and fuel my muscles and fuel the rest of my body.
And you said you're 50? How old are you?
I am 57 years of age,
50.
John.
Look at it. Look at this guy, everybody.
I
57.
am 57 years of age.
You look amazing. You look amazing.
I feel so good. As I say, I shared some photographs with you, and those were in my mid-40s, and now I feel and look
Yes.
younger. It's almost like those pictures
Yes.
are flipped. It's the only thing you probably can tell is I've got a few more tattoos and then since
There
then,
you go.
but
Aging in reverse. Yeah.
yeah, aging in reverse. And I do generally feel so much better. So it is a beautiful thing, and this is something that people aren't willing to listen to. And I don't know, I haven't pinpointed why they won't listen. I think it may be because they've bought into that way of eating for so long, listen to the government narrative or listen to the so-called experts, and then they bought into this healthy eating the granola and the cereals, what they perceive as heart healthy. People sometimes don't want to then actually go back and say, oh, I might have got that wrong. Well, actually, you and I will both turn around and say, doesn't matter what you've done previously. Start tomorrow, start today.
Right.
And if you make a mistake and you have a lapse and it doesn't matter. Don't reflect on that. Look at the next day.
The message is, I'm sure, as well as where you live and here in America, it's been our whole life, barraged, constant about cholesterol, about saturated fat, about vegetable oils are healthy and margarine's better. I mean, over and over repeatedly. And, you hear something long enough, many times it becomes just like, I know the moon is up there. It becomes part of your general knowledge and you just believe it. And then somebody comes along and says, you're wrong. I don't want to admit I've been wrong all those years.
No. Absolutely. They've not just invested financially into the healthy eating. Yeah, they've invested their body, their mind, their soul. Right. They've invested everything into that. And in cases, they've invested their family's health as well.
Especially the doctors, they've invested their education and their career in it. So some of them are harder.
So my lesson is just forget that. Doesn't matter what you've been told. Now try it. You've got nothing to lose trying to eat this way.
I agree. I think people get to that point, sadly, when they have a traumatic experience, like a kidney stone, or they're in the hospital and they're on their last resort. I've tried everything. I heard about this thing called carnivore. Let me try that before I die. Some people, it takes that, unfortunately.
It does, but we just start, and it's
amazing. You're right. You're preaching to the choir here. Let's talk about you as a teacher. I'm a teacher, or I'm a retired teacher. I still call myself a teacher because I'm teaching on YouTube. As a former mathematics teacher, how has your analytical background shaped the way you interpret nutrition science and cut through mainstream confusion, since we talked about the confusion?
Yes, well, I am always have been a mathematician, and a really high level mathematician. I love problem solving. It's something that's special for me, is that, and I might actually almost say it's a curse sometimes, is this ability with this mathematics. If anybody knows the Matrix film and they think of Neo with those, and he sees all the binary code all drifting, I'm like that when I see, I don't even watch any news anymore, but when I see our government maybe talking about averages or talking about some of the data, and I'm saying, yeah, but which average are they using? I know 3 different types. They can use the data to show their narrative, or whichever way they want. So when I say it's a bit of a curse, but it's also, I get a buzz from it. You'll be passionate about your subject. I'm passionate about mathematics. Now, when I've started to do my research, or I call it research now when I reflect back, but at the time it was just an interest in looking at historical figures like Stephenson that I mentioned before, and some of the others, that, and especially the tribes and the Inuits particularly, how they could live on this fat all year round and not have a single case of heart disease. And it starts to make you think, well, I need to research this further. I need to investigate further. And so why is the government telling us over and over again, if we eat saturated fat, we will suffer from chronic heart disease? And then I came across Ansel Keys from the 1970s. I think it might have been a little bit earlier. And when I read that about his 22 country study, which he only published as 7 countries because he wanted to exclude the data that didn't fit with his own hypothesis. Well, in fact, John, now the hairs on the back of my neck are standing out, because as a mathematician, that is so wrong. You cannot take the data that you want to demonstrate and leave the other stuff out because it doesn't fit your narrative. I mean, I know the government does that, and I know plenty of the pharmaceuticals and the big pharma companies will do that, but they're trying to make money. They may have their own reasons, and I'm not going to even go there. But for me, seeing that with Ansel Keys, and then cause so many decades of problems for people because they believe it. Not only that, the government believe it. And actually, the cholesterol, our superhero cholesterol, is being pushed to the side and then demonized, and then statins appear on the scene to stop our body desperately trying to manufacture it. And people,
I hear you. You're very passionate.
I am, and I don't.
You're a left thinker. You're a logical person with passion, which doesn't usually go together. But you are.
Certainly passionate. It's this
absolutely.
Weekend at this meetup, I was a little worried that will I have come across arrogant on this BBC, or
all
passionate?
You have to do is smile, John. All you got to do is
well, thank you,
smile.
John.
Come on.
But arrogance and passion can sometimes be a fine line between them. But when we are so confident in what we're saying, then the passion comes out, doesn't it?
So tell me about the meetup. You met Dr. Kiltz and a few other people. You saw George and Stephanie. How did it go? And then did you get to talk to the BBC? Were they there with microphones? What happened?
I think the BBC couldn't avoid not talking to me because once I opened my mouth and I started on my soapbox, as I'm doing now to you, suddenly then I was mic'd up and they came across and the cameras were across. I mean, we're not allowed to say too much about it at this stage, but there's no problem saying they were there. It's not just they don't want to see. I mean, the pictures have been put out onto social media, but it's not. They don't really want us to say much about the documentary itself. But no, I'll be interested to see how they portray me, because we know with any film crew they can cut and portray it any way they want.
Right.
But really, whatever. I think with, as you rightly say, the smile and the passion will come across. And I think people are looking at it and think, well, why is this 57-year-old man looking so healthy? I hadn't eaten for 24 hours. In fact, it was over 24 hours, still full of energy and no brain fog whatsoever. The interviewer, I asked her, I said, I think you probably suffer from brain fog. She goes, I do all the time, as she's reaching for the sugary drink. And I
Oh,
said,
really?
well,
Yeah.
well, in fact, I even handed her my book and I said, read it. Here's your copy. Read that book. It will change your life for the better. She goes, really? I said, yes. 100% money back guarantee. She goes, really? I said, yes.
Good.
Between you and me, I'm giving you it, so there's no money. So, but we can give a guarantee. If people start this lifestyle, it will be life changing for the better.
Almost everybody, and some, I hear the phrase, "Oh, it's not for everybody." You and I, we both know what is in plants and we know what is in ultra processed food. And when you remove those toxins and poisons, which are micro poison, I mean, they don't kill you right away, but they slowly do damage. You can't not improve when you remove those things.
You're absolutely right there, John, because, and I was asked this question, they said, well, what would I say was the healthy plate? Because I've come from the teaching world where I had to promote the so-called healthy plate, the 5 fruit and veg a day, the food pyramid. So they said that to me, what would I put on the healthy plate? And I said, I don't really want to go down that road of what I would put on the healthy plate. I know what I would eat, but it's more about what you're removing from the so-called healthy plate. So it's avoiding certain toxins, certain foods that are going to cause a problem. So when you just said that, you said the avoidance of it. Yeah, absolutely agree. That's what's important about the healthy plate, the food pyramid.
Did they leave it at that? Did they accept that answer, or did they push you to say, well, what are you putting on the plate then?
No, they didn't push that any further.
All right,
good. But it's I think it's when I've sort of come across so passionate, it's almost like, oh, where do we go with this one now?
So. Oh, wow. Oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was there. I mean, I heard George and Stephanie. I saw that they posted that. I saw pictures. I saw you in some of the pictures. So
yes.
I'm so anxious to see what happens with this.
Well, Dr. Kiltz, I'm being interviewed with him next week, but we've got the opportunity to meet and we gelled so much.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because I suddenly straight away from across the other side of the room, I knew here's another passionate man, so passionate about it, and the energy. Both our energies together were like together. Wow, we were. So it was nice to meet him.
He does that. He envelops you, and you're 100% in his focus, and he gives you 100% of his time. Yes. And he's a beautiful human being for sure. All right, let's see. In your book, let's talk about your book.
Oh, yes, please.
In your book and your coaching, you talk about rewilding the body and the mind. What does that mean to you personally, and how can the average person begin that process today?
Yeah, I like rewilding is some people have thought I'm going back to hunting. Fine, if you enjoy hunting, get out there and hunt. But what I'm actually talking about with the rewilding is just getting back to the food from the source, using the local farm shops, using the local farmer. I mean, I sometimes get accused from saying that my way of eating meat is decimating the Amazon forest. And I say, well, my farmer is just behind where I live here with his sheep. From my classroom window, I used to be able to see his farm. He doesn't know anything about him decimating the Amazon because his beautiful sheep are on that grass. So he is proud of what he does. The butcher that sells his meat is an award-winning butcher, and he's proud of what he does. So these two are very proud, and then I go along and buy that meat for them. That's what I'm talking about, getting rewilding rather than going out hunting. It's eating from source. Now, what happens then is you are sitting down having this most beautiful meat that you know the source of it. You can actually give it the animal praise, whatever way you operate on that, gratitude, giving it respect. I know where it's come from. I can look across at my partner when we're eating that beautiful food and be thankful for it, be grateful for it. Now, we may not talk for a little bit, and then afterwards is having this conversation about how beautifully we cooked it, how beautiful it was, and having the conversation around the table. This is a bit like the old ancestral way of eating. There might have been a hunter. He's brought back she's brought back the food, the meat they've sat around the fire, they start to tell the stories. The fat sizzling onto the fire, just as it will be when we're cooking that beautiful lamb steak. And this is possibly rewilding. So what happens then? That's for the body. And then comes along is the mind. We know it's ketones, and we know we feel better that eating that way, but it's that clarity of thought. And if we're being grateful in life, if we're spending every day being grateful, and we're grateful to that farmer, we're grateful to that butcher, we're grateful to the animal that we're eating, then that's surely going to be a great thing as well. So this is what I'm talking about, getting back to nature, to rewilding, rather than the processed foods. Or colleagues of mine will be on their almond milk and bringing the almonds in from, I don't know, California, and avocados from Israel, and wherever they're getting from. And please, and I'm not knocking anybody's life choice, because I was a vegetarian eating that way for a long time as well. But it's just being aware of where that food comes from. I think that's sort of getting back to the rewilding with the body and the mind that you mentioned there.
That's a beautiful description. Rewilding. I'm going to start using that phrase. As you were talking, I was envisioning a family teaching children to wait for it to be finished, and to hear the sizzle and to smell it cooking, and the family all gathered. I can see, as you were describing, I could see the vision. And then I saw a contrast on the other side of my head of a cell phone and macaroni and cheese heated up in the microwave in plastic.
And,
right?
and
what a contrast.
And we've all done it, John. I mean, as a busy teacher, and with 3 children, I was one of those parents that would be putting the cereals in front of the kids, saying, "Eat that, we've got to go, we're rushing."
Right, it
would be Friday night when I came back from work, because I was so tired, would be takeaway night, and it'd be pizzas or whatever their choice. The kids would be buzzing, they'd be so excited. Right. It was processed food. So I do not blame anybody for living that way, because I did it for a long time, and its existence. And your children will be fine, because the human body is beautiful. And as you said at the start of our interview here, that, it'll be fine, 20 years, 30 years, some people even longer. And then you'll start to get those little telltale signs. So please don't beat yourself up. My poor mother's 80 now, and she's sometimes a little bit horrified, especially now she's a carnivore and she's read my book over and over again. And she goes, and she says to me, "Oh, I just regret feeding your brother and you margarines and all these seed oils and all the things that were so wrong." And I said, "But please don't blame yourself, because it was your choice, but you're following the subliminal advertising on the television." Yeah. But where we were fortunate was my grandparents were farmers. So the meat came from the farm directly. The milk was raw milk. So for the first 12 years of my life, which is a really important time, I had a great start. Then it started going downhill a little bit but I think, hopefully, John, that's why I've never had any health issues. But I think at the age of 45, whenever I started to eat this way, I must have been hunting for something, because I was, I could feel my skin getting a bit flaky, all these other things, your joints started aching a little bit. So it may not have been long before I was going to struggle there.
And we're taught that, it's just old age. There's another message after all the wrong messages about margarine and food and cholesterol. The next message is you're just getting old. It's expected, and you're going to be stiff, and you're going to sit in the chair longer, and you're going to put on weight, and we're told to accept it.
I used to have this waist, this tie around me, and my daughter would sometimes, because children are just quite brutal like that, and my younger, and she would say, and I would say, "I'm quite muscular," and she goes, "No, Dad, you're just fat." And I said, "Yeah, but underneath there is muscle." And this is the way. And I used to say, "Yeah, but when you're a middle-aged man, that's what happens." And I would look around and see all these men, and that's what the shape is that they'd have. I've got a 6-pack. Okay, it's maybe only a 5.5-pack at the moment, but it's because it's winter training. But where's that come from? Other than that fat, that storage. I mean, because the human body is brilliant at storing its energy. if they keep throwing carbohydrates there, it's going to store that. And that's all I was doing, but 45 years of storage. So.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that it's getting into the visceral first, and that pushes out, and then it's around. We all have it around here, especially us guys. We have this. I still have a little bit of it, and then I'm told by Dr. Kiltz and others that, a little bit of subcutaneous fat. I mean, it's healthy. It's if you can pinch it. It's not the bad visceral fat, and we are doing what we're the biggest thing is, how do you feel? How do you operate? Just like you said, you get up in the morning without the coffee and you're jumping around all over the place. In the end, I don't know what to do with my energy. I don't know about you, but I have to find more things to do because I have so much energy, and I'm 60, a little ahead of you. And I have more energy than I had in my 40s. Just amazing.
Well, you spend your time writing books and teaching the world as you're doing here, and opening up this beautiful way of living to everybody who's willing to listen to you.
There's the key. Anybody who's ready and is willing to listen.
We have a voice, and I like to call it a carnivore voice that you and I have. So
we have that, and I just feel that I can't keep it to myself. It's like I discovered this amazing, like a lottery ticket. I discovered something, and how can I not share it? This is more valuable and more important than money. This thing called health makes us so wealthy. How can I keep my mouth shut?
And I mean, this is why I had to get the message into a book, because we were going to look at any outlet we can. I wasn't any presence on social media. This presence on social media has come on the back of my book for promotion. But I was knocked back in the early days because people were seeing that I was just trying to promote my book. And I said, well, no, I'm trying to promote a message. The book's attached to the message. The book contains the message. And there were some people said, well, in that case, give us it for free. I said, well, I have invested quite a lot of time and money into this. And also, we all know that if somebody's willing to hand over their $15, they're more likely to buy into that than if they feel as though they've actually spent something on that.
That's all this is. And tell the viewers, if they know, you and I know that this is your second edition. The first one was called Blood and Bone, right?
Yeah.
And that one was bigger and thicker. And what did you do from that book to this
book? So guys, if you want to go and find my book, just find Duncan Smart on there on Amazon. But you'll see 2 copies of the same book. So it doesn't matter which one you want to buy, Blood or Bone, or Carnivore, the manual. Blood and Bone came about. It's a huge, great, big, thick book. It's very heavy. I called it a manifesto. I had this great idea that when I've been writing it over the last year, that I wanted this almost like a Bible for the carnivore world. And all the authors I'd read over the years and the styles of writing that I really enjoyed. I loved the styles where it was a parable. So they would take the science, tell you the science, support it with evidence, and then wrap it up in a beautiful story, a bit of fiction, a bit of a parable. And then also over the years of trying to tell people or help people, when especially athletic colleagues of mine would say, what is your secret? Tell us it. And I would tell them, and they'd say, oh, I can't do that. And this idea of them looking at me as though I was a mythical creature. And I said to my partner, do you know what? I might as well be a mythical creature, and they're more likely to believe me. So this idea came about of telling the story, narrating this book through the eyes of a vampire. Now, that may surprise a few people because we're not blood-sucking vampires, although I don't mind having some blood pudding. But the idea of the vampire was the mythical side of it, really. But actually, as I've done the research, it's not far off the idea of the vampire that doesn't they can go for days without food, they have loads of energy, they're fast, their endurance, they heal quickly. And then he started to find the stories about the Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan and all of the Mongolian tribals, the fantastic armies, and they could ride for days, and they were carnivores, and they took over so much of Europe and those areas because if they got shot with an arrow, they heal quickly. And so this idea of, well, they must be mythical, they must be, and the idea of the vampire came from that. So That's my
That's
back. So I
cool.
guess, yeah. So, and also, John, and you might relate to this. I was still teaching,
Uh-huh.
and I really didn't want my word to come out. Because I was trying to talk about the educational system and the canteen and all this.
Mm.
So my idea was, if I'm saying it through the eyes of a mythical creature, a vampire, then it won't come back on me so much. Well, however, I published it to coincide with my retirement, so I can say what I want now.
Right. I remember you sharing that too. And I can relate as a teacher what you can and cannot say at certain times and to whom. Well, tell us a little bit more about this so that anybody who's watching, where they can get it. You said it was about $15. This is the paperback. What else is contained in here? Just how to become a carnivore?
Yeah,
It's a manual.
it's a whole system. It's probably, for each chapter is a standalone chapter, John.
Mhm.
So although I would suggest to somebody they read it from front to back in order, because there is probably more written between the lines than there's actually sometimes on the lines.
Right.
And then it becomes apparent that the vampire is me towards the end, because the book evolves. But after that, every chapter is a standalone chapter. So there's a chapter about the menopause. And okay, I'm no expert on the menopause, but I researched it to look at how this carnivore way of living, this lifestyle, could help with the menopause. There's a whole chapter about neurodiversity, because I gravitated to that specialism in my education as a teacher, specialized with the neurodiverse students. So the ones who are suffering from the ADHD or the autism, and how this can actually help, how this way of living. So the research is wrapped up in that as a chapter. There's even a chapter about the COVID, how that could possibly help as well. But every bit of evidence is, well, every bit of science is supported with evidence. So probably you've seen that at the back of the book. There's probably 50 pages of reference material.
Sources, right?
And as you know, it takes a long time, doesn't it?
Oh, tell me. I know.
But again, that's probably my left brain the mathematical brain who wanted that absolutely precise and accurate. So then we will talk about the toxicity of the plants and how that would affect you. So I think that everybody will be able to relate to one chapter, at least in that book.
Oh, more than one. Absolutely. Definitely. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question that's not on the list that I gave you, but it's one that I get constantly as a teacher. Okay. What did you see first of all, what age level did you teach?
It was 11 to 16. So we call it secondary school here. Okay. But I did have a go at A level, which was so that was 16 to 18. I did have a spell at
high school. So you taught middle school like I did. We call it the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, we call them. And the creatures, I call them. the adolescent creatures with all the hormones. What did you see in the cafeteria for the food? What the students brought to snack on? What did you constantly see, and how if you saw it being affected in their behavior?
Gosh, I'll probably almost write a book on that, John, because it's so many things that almost brought me to tears. But to answer your question quickly, then in the cafeteria was some of the students towards the end of my teaching career, I would be supporting them because of their neurodiverse learning issues. They had to avoid crowded rooms, so I'd escort them down to the cafeteria, take them straight in, and maybe perhaps help them choose something. Now, after a while, they were all ladies in there. They just happened to be working. Then they would almost tease me, and they say, "Oh, Mr. Smart, there's probably nothing in here you could eat." And I'd look around and say, and then one of them would say, "Oh, we've got this chicken breast or something." And I'm thinking, well, I don't really bother with chicken much, but it doesn't matter. But it's wrapped in breadcrumbs, so I couldn't even touch that. And it'll be deep fried in seed oils. Right. And so I said, there's nothing there I could have. And then one of them joked and said, apart from our salt, because you probably like the salt. I said, yes, I certainly have salt, but not your manufactured salt, not your table salt. And they looked at me horrified. And then one, thinking she was being clever, said, "What about all this water? We got a selection of water." And I scanned it. I said, "It's all flavored water with sugar. You do not have any normal water." I said, "There is nothing." And John, this is where it disturbs me, is our schools in the UK are all about getting these healthy school status, healthy food status, healthy plate status, and they brand it on their websites. And the canteen door said this is a healthy place to eat. The parents think they're eating healthy. There was nothing in there. And one of the ladies said, well, you'd better eat something. If you were hungry, you'd eat it. I said, I'll be fine until tomorrow, maybe even the day after. I do not need to eat. And besides, I ate yesterday, so I'm fine.
Which is foreign to a lot of people, to fast. Fasting. Oh, that's something only super religious people do. What do you do? That's what poor people do when they don't have food. You have to eat.
But then my thing about the fasting is then when you break that fast and you have that meat and that sizzling, beautiful meat, then it is the most, you taste it. And I taste food now like I've never tasted it. Possibly when I was a small child on my grandfather's farm, then I probably tasted real food, but you're too young to appreciate it.
Right.
But now I taste that food, and it not only does I taste it, and I taste it up here in my mind with the ketones, and you almost feel it going from your toes up to the top of your head because it's nourishing.
It's your body's telling you, thank you for this nutrition. I'm being nourished, instead of, oh, I'm having a dopamine response from all the sugar. It's
Absolutely
big difference signal. All right. I also ask this question of all my guests: what are you eating these days? Can you tell us what you eat in a day?
Of course I can. Because I haven't eaten since yesterday. I know I've got it because I've got them resting at room temperature. Is 4 lamb steaks, so it's a nice fatty lamb. I'm very fortunate where I live because here we've got a lot of hills, and some of the only animals really that will survive well on this hillside are sheep. Sheep farms. So we get the lamb, and it is so beautiful because it's grass fed and it's got the fat. So I do eat a lot of lamb. I'm quite lucky on that. My partner went down to the butcher, our local butcher, and said, can we all put an order in for Christmas? He says, yeah, what would you like? She says, a whole lamb. Wow. And he goes, oh, that'll be £250. He goes, in fact, make it 2 whole lambs. And I was like, where are we going to put it?
You have a big freezer.
So I said, we'll have to let our family look after it. She goes, well, all the family want to eat that lamb. So so mostly lamb and beef. I mean, beef is my go-to meat. Duck occasionally, really enjoy the duck. I avoid, not that chicken is a problem, not an issue at all, but it's just not fatty enough. I just don't keep, and I do worry about the chicken here in the UK, whether it's how it's being reared.
Yeah, what they're feeding.
Yeah.
So now, all right. So let's go a little deeper because people want to know. All right, how do you like to cook your lamb and your beef? Everybody does it differently.
Of course they do, absolutely. And when people say to me, don't you get bored of eating like that all the time? I said, well, no, because I've got maybe 12 different types of salt that I've gathered from around my trips around Europe and the world, all these different beautiful salts, which each one tastes different. I maybe have 4 go to different types of meat. And then I've got different ways of cooking it. So when you do the permutations of going back to maths again, I probably won't have to eat the same thing for 6 months. So I'm never going to get bored of eating that way, ever. So back to answer your question of how I prefer to cook it. Here in the UK where I am, the winters are quite cold and not pleasant. But in the summer month, I mean, a barbecue outside to cook on real flame is for me is the best. I love this. Back to when we mentioned before about that searing the fat, and it's just and the smell that comes off. That's part of eating it. Then the rest of the time in my house here, it's in a cast iron pan. I will fry it in there. The butter burns a little bit sometimes, but I got all the fats that I keep off the meats that I've cooked. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing at all on that. And yeah, occasionally I've been to people's houses. They may have used one of these air fryers. And again, I think an air fryer seems to cook quite a nice, as long as they don't overcook it, it's quite a nice.
How do you like your steak? Rare, medium?
Over the years of eating this way, I've had to train myself. It sounds odd, train myself to eat the fat, because again, it's back to that being demonized, and it's in your inner being that we've got to avoid fat at all costs. So then it even becomes strange on the texture. So I've trained myself. Now I've got to the point where it does not, I will happily eat strips of fat. And so the rarer, the better for me. My partner, she's from Poland, and we go back to Poland quite a lot. And she says, "You're really lucky going to Poland." I said, "Why is that?" She goes, "It's the meat capital of the Europe."
Is
And
it?
the meat that they have there is most beautiful. Went to visit her brother, and there he's presenting a steak tartare and just raw beef cut up. And he says, "I didn't add anything in, no capers or anything, because I know you won't have that." I said, "No, just a bit of salt." So every time we go, it's raw. It's a raw mince, and we can't have it that way here in the UK because no butcher will sell you it that way. I don't know if it's a cleanliness of his mince or what, or maybe it's the laws. I really don't know about that, John. So I apologise to anybody that I might have got that slightly wrong. But in Poland, they can sell it for that purpose. So
I think I'm going to book my next trip to Poland.
Well, funny enough, we were talking about maybe arranging a meetup there. So
oh wow!
Because there's something called a golonka, which is a pork knuckle. So it's a knuckle of the pork.
Okay,
right. It's the ankle joint. It's really fatty. It's beautifully fatty, and the skin on it is just so. Oh, it's just, I'm making myself hungry now. So when Anna cooks one of these, she'll cook it in the slow cooker and then finish it in the oven so the skin goes beautiful. And we'll sit across one side of the table, looking at each other lovingly, and we'll start eating from one side until we meet in the middle in the bone. So quite a romantic way of eating.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow, that is so cool. This has been fantastic. What else did you want to share before we leave? About your book, about teaching, about being retired. What are you doing in retirement?
Yeah, that's a funny one, is that, John? Because I was looking forward to all my time off when I retired. I thought, I'm going to train loads, I'm going to race loads. Right. This last 6 months, I've been doing less training and less racing because I've been so busy with this passion of this message that we need to put across. We've been invited onto beautiful interviews like with yourself and promotion of my book and discussing of my book. So that has been a busy side of it. But I love it, to go down to just outside London this weekend. For me, it was almost a 6-hour drive and then a 6-hour drive back. But I'm listening to podcasts on the way. I'm listening to audiobooks. So I've been quite busy recently with this idea, with this retirement. But I'm enjoying it without a shadow of doubt. So, message I want to put across to people, I think, is be kind to yourself. Really be kind to yourself, because I heard so many times that people I work with, and they say, "Oh, I went to a family function and I wanted to be polite, so I had to have Auntie Mary's, what should we call it, a pie or whatever she made." And I said, "Well, please don't be mean on yourself. Please just start again. It's not. It's not as though you've changed it." The problem I see sometimes is that people will then say, "Oh, well, I just had a bad weekend and I started eating carbs, so I'm going to continue for a while." I said, just get back on eating healthy, because it's an addiction. All you're doing is just fueling that addiction. You can soon start again. All right, it might take them a little bit to get back into the ketogenic state, but it doesn't really matter as long as they're starting to eat.
And they're continuing where they left off. They're not starting from scratch. They've made all this progress, and if you fall down, you forgive yourself, and then you continue where you left off. And then it takes maybe a day or two to get back into ketosis.
It's about forgiveness. If you were struggling to get your children to eat their broccoli or whatever, well, there's a reason for it. You and I both know why the children don't want to do it. Just allow them to eat the meat. Right. They will not suffer from scurvy. I'm 8 years in and I've never been so healthy. So it's not. Every part of me is functioning so well. I haven't seen it. People say
you're getting so much collagen from the connective tissue and everything from the food. And we are getting vitamin C from meat. And we don't need that much vitamin C because we're carnivores. And we're also eating collagen. And people always throw that scurvy thing at me.
Oh, they do it all the time. I mean, people say to me, they say, "Well, what do you say to your doctor when he talks about the cholesterol levels?" And I say, I haven't seen a doctor for 8 years and I don't have one. But I said, what you should say to your doctor is, can they recommend a good doctor? And they go, really? Yes. Because if your doctor, I do not blame your doctor for not understanding this way, because
That's what they were taught.
yes, that's what they've been taught. They've been taught to try to help people overcome certain things, not the prevention. So don't blame them. Maybe just look for a doctor that does understand.
Look for another one, right? Exactly. And there aren't. It's difficult. It's difficult. I'm really lucky with mine. He always points out that my cholesterol is sky high, my LDL, and then I point to him. But look at my triglycerides. But look at my HDL. Look at my CAC score. And he's like, "You're right." He says, "You're right, but we better watch this." And I have to write down. You said you refused the statin. I said, "Go ahead and write that."
You're talking my language there with the numbers and the ratios, the triglyceride ratios, and
it's so important to know all of this. And when you like you and I, when we started learning, it's comfortable. Like I know in my mind I'm doing it right and well. I didn't know that much at the beginning, but I'm taking in so many videos and reading so many books now that I'm starting to feel, as an educator, as a student now, I'm feeling more comfortable that I am doing the right thing. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Very much so. Yeah. Very much so.
This has been fantastic, Duncan. Where can people find you? And I'll put it in the show notes so people can click it and connect with you and learn more about you and your book.
Okay, so Duncan Smart I go under, which I don't think there'll be many out there under that name, but certainly the Carnivore Coach, Duncan Smart. The book's available Barnes and Noble. It's available mostly on Amazon. It's probably the easiest place to find that. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I don't do a huge amount on YouTube, John. I'm starting to dabble with it. I never realized that. I think because a lot of my videos are reels or shorts and not, but we'll see. I may start delivering messages through YouTube as well.
It's a great place. I've had a lot of success with that. So it's kind of, I used to, my last 17 years of teaching out of my 34, I taught video production. I got into that and I ran a little television studio. So I just took off with it. So making these videos is just fun. It's fun for me. That's what I do in my retirement. So yeah, if you dabble in it, it's kind of fun to do, and you reach a lot of people. I have a video that just went crazy that I put out a few days ago, and it's already hit 40,000 views. I don't know why this one's so popular when the other ones only have a couple hundred, but you just never know who you're going to reach, and then they'll send you feedback, and it's encouraging that maybe I am helping people. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll have a go at that. I'll have a go.
All right, my friend, thank you so much. Stay on when I hit end so I can give you a proper goodbye. Appreciate it. Everybody check out the show notes for more information about Duncan Smart and his book. And thank you for joining us. Take care.
Thank you very much.